How does a life collapse into a backseat? I'm 62, curled under a winter coat in my 12-year-old Honda Civic, the cardboard beneath me softened by 3 months of body heat and the occasional drip from a leaky sunroof. My name is Louise Qualls, and this parking lot behind a shuttered grocery store in Ohio has been my home since October. The streetlight outside casts jagged shadows across the asphalt, and my breath fogs the car window in small, perfect circles as I press my palm against the cold glass. I can still hear Jane's voice from our last call, thin and distracted. "Just sleep in your car a little longer, Mom. I'm busy with the baby coming and all. You understand, right?" I understand more than she knows, more than I want to. The flood took everything: my little house on Maple Street, my photographs, my mother's china, 40 years of memories collected with care. Insurance covered the structure, but not the life inside it. Now, I'm left with this car, a few salvaged clothes, and the ache of being invisible to the daughter I raised. It wasn't always like this. After the flood, Jane had seemed sympathetic, her voice soft over the phone. "Of course you can stay with us temporarily, Mom, just until you get back on your feet." But temporary stretched into uncomfortable, and uncomfortable became impossible when Frank, her husband, started leaving notes on the fridge, sharp little jabs about utility bills and grocery costs. I'd find them in the morning, taped there like accusations. "We all need to pitch in, Louise." I wasn't eating their food or running their heat, but my presence was a weight they didn't want to carry. The morning I left, Jane was feeding 18-month-old Emma mashed bananas in the high chair. She barely looked up as I explained I'd be staying elsewhere. "That's probably for the best," she'd said, wiping Emma's chin. "Frank's stressed about the promotion at work, and you know how he gets." Oh, I knew. Frank got mean, entitled, comfortable, treating me like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome in what had been my temporary refuge. Now, lying in this car, the coat scratching my skin, I wonder if this is what my mother felt in her final years. Unseen, inconvenient, discarded when love became too much effort. My phone buzzes against my chest. A text from Jane. "Hope you're doing okay. Frank got the promotion. We're looking at bigger houses now. Baby number 2 due in spring." I stare until the screen goes dark, no reply forming. She hopes I'm okay, sleeping in a car in December in Ohio while she dreams of nurseries and mortgages. The words sting, not because they're cruel, but because they're careless, as if my survival is a footnote in her expanding life. I set the phone aside and close my eyes, the cold seeping through the coat, the cardboard shifting beneath me. Every morning, I drive to the public library, parking in the same spot near the back entrance. The librarian, Rosa Pratt Kelly, stopped asking questions weeks ago. She just nods as I pass the circulation desk, heading for the computer terminals, where I spend hours applying for jobs, researching assistance programs, piecing together what the flood swept away. The library smells of old books and coffee, a quiet hum of normalcy, students typing, retirees reading newspapers, children giggling in the story corner. I'm invisible here too, but it's a kinder invisibility, one that doesn't judge or demand. My fingers hover over the keyboard, drafting another application, but my mind drifts to Jane's house, to Emma's sticky fingers and Frank's pointed notes. I wonder if I'll ever feel at home again, or if home is just another thing the flood took. Today feels like every other Tuesday, gray and endless, until I open my email and see a subject line that stops my breath. Regarding the estate of Tilly Brendel. My heart hammers as I read the sender's name twice: Harrison Blackwell and Associates, estate attorneys. "Dear Louise Qualls, we represent the estate of your late aunt, Tilly Brendel. We have been attempting to locate you regarding a bequest in her will. Aunt Tilly, my mother's sister, who vanished to California in the 1980s, fading from family gatherings and Christmas cards. I'd assumed she was long gone, lost to time and distance. But she remembered me." The words blur on the screen, and I sit frozen in the library's plastic chair, the hum of normal life around me suddenly distant. This email could change everything, or it could be another false hope in a season of them. I don't know yet, but the possibility crackles in my chest, sharp and unfamiliar, like the first hint of warmth after months of winter. I sit in the library's hard plastic chair, the email from Harrison Blackwell and Associates glowing on the screen like a beacon in the fog of my life. My fingers tremble as I reread the message. We represent the estate of your late aunt, Tilly Brendel. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss the inheritance she has left you. The words feel like a foreign language, their meaning too vast to grasp. Tilly, who I hadn't seen since I was a girl, who sent sporadic postcards from California with palm trees and beaches, has left me something. My mind churns. Maybe a small keepsake, a token from a woman I barely knew. But the word estate carries weight, hinting at more than a trinket. Around me, the library hums with its usual rhythm. A student's fingers tapping a keyboard, the soft rustle of a newspaper, a child's muffled laugh from the story corner. I'm still invisible here, but now I feel exposed, as if the screen's light might draw eyes to my secret. I hesitate before dialing the number at the email's bottom, my thumb hovering over the phone. What if this is a mistake? What if Tilly's bequest is a debt, another burden to carry? But the alternative, returning to the Honda's back seat, to another night of cold and cardboard, pushes me forward. The attorney's voice, Robert Rice, is calm, professional, almost bored as he confirms the impossible. Tilly Brendel has left me her entire estate. A craftsman bungalow in Pasadena, California, worth approximately $850,000. Investment accounts and a life insurance policy totaling $320,000 after debts. My hands shake as he recites numbers that belong to someone else's life, not mine. You're looking at inheriting well over $1 million, Miss Qualls, he says, as if discussing the weather. I manage a weak thank you and end the call, the library's hum fading to a dull roar in my ears. I read the email again, then a follow-up from Rice with details. An address, a meeting time, a request to confirm my travel plans. Pasadena. I haven't been to California since a family trip in the 1970s, when Tilly still sent birthday cards with crisp $5 bills tucked inside. I'd assumed she'd died years ago, her silence a natural drift of extended family. But she'd remembered me, chosen me for this fortune. Why? The question gnaws as I stare at the screen, my job applications forgotten. I think of Jane, of her texts about house hunting and babies, sent while I shivered in a parking lot. Part of me wants to call her, to spill this news and watch her face shift from distant politeness to awe. But something holds me back. A small, hard seed of anger, planted during those months of her silence, fed by every night I spent alone while she planned her future. I leave the library and drive to the parking lot, the Honda's engine rattling as if it senses my agitation. The streetlight casts its familiar shadows, but tonight they feel less oppressive, as if the email has cracked open a window in my world. I pull out my phone and search for Pasadena real estate, scrolling through photos of craftsman homes with wide porches and orange trees. The images are beautiful, alien, a life I can't yet imagine. I think of my mother's china, lost to the flood, and wonder what Tilly's house holds. Her books, her dishes, her memories. Did she know about my loss? Did she sense my unraveling from 2,000 miles away? The questions pile up, unanswered, as the car grows colder. I don't call Jane. Instead, I drive to a diner I've passed 100 times, a place with neon signs and coffee that tastes like home. I order a sandwich and sit in a booth, the vinyl squeaking under me. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes and a kind smile, refills my cup without asking. I pull out Rice's business card, its edges already soft from my fingers, and reread his email on my phone. The numbers are real. $850,000 for the house, $320,000 in assets. $1 million lifeline from a woman I'd nearly forgotten. I think of Frank's notes on the fridge, Jane's casual dismissal as I left her house. This inheritance feels like a secret I'm not ready to share. Not with them. Not yet. As I eat, I calculate what I can afford. A motel for a few nights, a plane ticket to California. I've been hoarding money for an apartment deposit, every dollar scraped from odd jobs and careful rationing. It's enough to get me to Pasadena, to see this house for myself. The diner's warmth seeps into my bones, and for the first time in months, I feel a flicker of possibility, like a match struck in the dark. I pay the check, leave a generous tip, and step into the December chill. The Honda waits, its back seat a reminder of where I've been, but not where I'm going. Tomorrow, I'll book the flight. Tomorrow, I'll start to understand what Tilly saw in me that I've forgotten in myself. The motel room smells of bleach and stale air, but the bed is soft and the shower runs hot, a luxury I haven't felt in months. I stand under the water, letting it scald my skin, washing away the grime of the parking lot and the weight of Jane's indifference. My reflection in the bathroom mirror startles me, hollow cheeks, eyes that have learned to expect disappointment, but something else flickers there too. A spark, faint but stubborn. Like the first green shoot after a wildfire. I've paid cash for 3 nights here, using some of the money I've hoarded for an apartment that never materialized. The Honda waits outside. Its back seat no longer my bed, at least for now. I wrap myself in a thin towel and sit on the edge of the mattress, my phone open to photos of Tilly's house in Pasadena. A craftsman bungalow with a wide front porch, orange trees in the backyard, windows that catch the California sun. It's beautiful, even in the listing's grainy images, but it feels like a dream I might wake from, back to cardboard and cold. I haven't told Jane about the inheritance. The thought of her voice, bright with congratulations but quick to calculate what it means for her, keeps my fingers from dialing. Her last text, "Hope you're doing okay," sits unanswered, its casual tone a reminder of how she's moved on while I've been stuck, surviving. I think of Frank's notes on the fridge, his irritation at my presence, and Jane's distracted agreement that I should leave. That small, hard seed of anger in my chest grows, fed by every night I spent shivering while they planned bigger houses and babies. I want to call her, to shout that I'm not the burden she made me feel, that I've been given a fortune she can't touch. But I don't. Instead, I open my laptop, borrowed from the library, and search for more details about Pasadena, about Tilly, about what this inheritance might mean. The house, I learn, is on Craftsman Avenue, a quiet street lined with oaks and bungalows from the 1920s. The listing mentions original hardwood floors, built-in bookcases, a kitchen last updated in the 1990s. It needs work, peeling paint, a sagging porch, but it's solid, built to last. I imagine walking through its rooms, touching the walls Tilly touched, wondering why she chose me. My memories of her are faint. A laugh like my mother's, postcards with looping handwriting, a woman who left Ohio for a life I never understood. Did she know about the flood? About Jane's house? The notes? The parking lot? The attorney, Robert Rice, didn't say, but his follow-up email confirms a meeting in 3 days at the property. I book a plane ticket with my hoarded savings, my hands shaking as I enter the payment details. It's a one-way ticket, a reckless choice, but the idea of returning to Ohio feels like stepping back into a cage. I spend the evening on the motel's spotty Wi-Fi, scrolling through images of Pasadena, palm trees, mountains, sunlight that doesn't feel like a grudging guest. I try to picture myself there, not as a visitor but as a resident, a woman with a home again. The thought is dizzying, like standing on the edge of a cliff. I think of my mother's quilt, one of the few things I saved from the flood, folded carefully in the Honda's trunk. I could hang it in that house, let it catch the light. But the anger lingers, sharp and unyielding. Jane's voice echoes. "That's probably for the best," she'd said as I left her house, as if my homelessness was a minor inconvenience. I want to believe this inheritance will change how she sees me, but deep down, I know it might only change what she wants from me. The next morning, I pack my few belongings, 2 grocery bags worth, all that's left of my life. The motel clerk, a young man with a bored expression, wishes me luck as I hand over the key. Outside, the December air bites my skin, but I feel lighter, as if shedding the parking lot has loosened something inside me. I drive to a thrift store, picking out a sweater and jeans that don't carry the smell of cardboard. In the fitting room, I catch another glimpse of that spark in my eyes, a hint of the woman I was before the flood, before Frank's notes, before I learned to make myself small. I pay for the clothes and head to the airport, the Honda's engine humming with purpose. As I park in the long-term lot, I don't look back at the back seat. California waits, and with it, the chance to discover what Tilly saw in me, a woman worth saving, a woman worth a home. The California sun hits my face as I step off the plane at LAX, a warmth so foreign it feels like a promise. My thrift store sweater is too heavy for this December air, and I shrug it off, carrying it over my arm like a relic from Ohio's gray winter. The airport buzzes with holiday travelers, their voices blending into a hum that's both chaotic and alive. I'm Louise Qualls, 62, standing on the edge of a new life, my 2 grocery bags of belongings slung over my shoulder. A car service arranged by Harrison Blackwell and Associates waits for me, and the driver, Pedro White, greets me with an easy smile. "First time in California?" he asks, navigating the freeway with practiced ease. "First time in 40 years, I reply, watching palm trees flash past like exclamation points against a blue sky. He glances at me in the rearview mirror, curious. "What brings you back?" "An inheritance," I say, the words still strange in my mouth. From an aunt I barely knew. Pedro nods, his eyes holding a knowing warmth. "Funny how family works. The ones you count on disappoint you, and the ones you forget about save your life." The drive to Pasadena is a blur of sunlight and traffic, the San Gabriel Mountains rising in the distance, like a postcard I might have received from Tilly decades ago. We pull up to Craftsman Avenue, and the bungalow takes my breath away. It's more beautiful than the listing photos, with a wide front porch wrapped around two sides, shaded by ancient oaks. The paint is peeling, the yard slightly overgrown, but the house has solid bones, built to endure. Robert Rice, the attorney, waits at the front gate, his expensive suit at odds with my worn jeans. "Miss Qualls," he says, his tone professional, but surprised, as if he expected someone more polished. "Your aunt spoke of you often. She made it sound like you were established." I grip the gate for support, looking at the house that's now mine. My aunt was remembering me from 40 years ago. People change, circumstances change. Inside, the house smells of lavender and old books, a life carefully lived. Hardwood floors creak under my feet, and built-in bookcases line the living room, stuffed with novels and worn journals. The kitchen, dated but clean, has a window overlooking orange trees heavy with fruit. I run my fingers along the counter, imagining Tilly here, her life unfolding in these rooms. Rice leads me through, explaining that neighbors have maintained the yard and collected mail since Tilly's death. In the master bedroom, I find photos on the dresser. Tilly as a young woman, then middle-aged, then elderly, always smiling. In many, she's with a tall woman with silver hair. Patricia Meek, Rice tells me, her partner of 37 years until Patricia's death in 2019. "Your aunt never recovered from that loss," he says, clearing his throat. I pick up a photo of them on this porch, hands intertwined, Tilly leaning into Patricia with a love so tangible it aches to see. "Was Patricia's family close?" I ask, tracing their joined hands in the frame. Rice hesitates. "She had a son in Oregon who contested the will when Patricia left everything to Tilly. Quite bitter about it." I nod, understanding why Tilly chose me, not out of closeness, but because we'd both learned that family isn't always blood, that love given freely is rarer than love demanded. The paperwork takes hours: bank accounts, investment portfolios, a life insurance policy. "The house is valued at $865,000, Rice says, and liquid assets total $347,000 after taxes and fees, bringing the inheritance to just over $1.2 million. The numbers are abstract, but the keys in my palm are real, heavy with possibility. After Rice leaves, I wander the house alone, touching Tilly's books, her faded curtains, the life she built with Patricia. In the kitchen, I find a note on the fridge in Tilly's careful handwriting. "For the neighbor who feeds the plants and collects my mail, there's wine in the pantry and cookies in the blue tin. Help yourself, tea." I step outside and knock on the neighbor's door. Sharon Clayton, a woman in her 70s with warm eyes, answers. "You're Tilly's niece," she says, ushering me inside for coffee. "She talked about you constantly. Louise this, Louise that." Over 3 hours, Sharon shares stories of Tilly and Patricia, dinners, vacations, gardening under these same orange trees. "Tilly worried about you this past year," Sharon says. "She had a feeling you were struggling. She changed her will 6 months ago, added a provision that I watch for you, make sure you got extra kindness when you arrived." I sit, stunned, realizing Tilly sensed my pain from across the country, while Jane, 30 minutes away, saw it as an inconvenience. The Pasadena morning spills golden light through the bungalow's windows, catching the dust motes in a slow dance above Tilly's hardwood floors. I'm up early, brewing coffee in the outdated kitchen, the scent mixing with the lavender that lingers in every room. My mother's quilt, one of the few things I salvaged from the flood, now hangs on the living room wall, its faded colors glowing in the sunlight. I've moved Tilly's mystery novels to a lower shelf, making space for my own tattered paperbacks, and rearranged the kitchen for my left-handed habits, small acts that claim this house as mine. Outside, Sharon Clayton tends her roses, waving as I step onto the porch with my mug. Her daily greetings, the hardware store clerk's patient help with paint colors, the book club flyer on the community board, they're threads of a new life weaving together, soft but strong. For the first time in months, I feel like I belong somewhere, not as a guest or a burden, but as a woman with a home. My phone has been quiet, Jane's texts unanswered since I left Ohio. The anger in my chest hasn't faded, but it's tempered by this new space, this chance to be more than the woman who slept in a car. I sip my coffee, watching the neighborhood wake, kids on bikes, a dog walker calling to a stubborn terrier, and decide it's time to tell Jane. I dial her number, my thumb hesitating only a moment. "Mom, finally," she says, her voice a mix of relief and irritation. "Where are you?" "California," I say, keeping it simple. "I inherited a house." Silence then. "What do you mean, inherited?" I tell her about Tilly, the bungalow, the money, keeping the details vague. "Aunt Tilly? I thought she died years ago. How much money?" There it is. Not sorrow for Tilly's passing, not joy for my escape from homelessness, just a quick pivot to what it means for her. "Enough," I say, echoing the non-answer I'll perfect later. She congratulates me, but her tone shifts, bright and calculating. "That's fantastic, Mom. Frank and I were just talking about how we could help you get back on your feet. This solves everything." I don't respond to that, letting the silence stretch. "We're actually flying out next weekend," she adds. "Found cheap tickets. We want to see this house, make sure you're okay." Her words land like a stone in my stomach. I know what this visit is, a chance to assess my windfall, to weave it into their plans for bigger houses and babies. I end the call with a vague promise to pick them up at the airport, my hands tight around the mug. The porch feels less like a sanctuary now, the orange trees less like a gift. I think of Frank's notes on the fridge, Jane's distracted dismissal as I left her house, and the months I spent invisible while they built their future. This house, this life is mine, but I can already feel their expectations pressing in, demanding a piece of what Tilly gave me. I set the mug down and head inside, my eyes catching the quilt's soft blues and reds. I won't let them take this from me, not the way they took my dignity in Ohio. I spend the day exploring Pasadena, driving the used Prius I bought yesterday, trading the Honda for something that doesn't smell of cardboard and despair. At a local boutique, I pick out a blue dress, the first new clothing I've bought in months, its fabric smooth against my skin. It makes me look competent, settled, like a woman who belongs in her own life. Back at the house, I wander through Tilly's rooms, touching her books, her chipped teacups, imagining her life with Patricia. Sharon's stories from yesterday echo. Tilly's strength, her choice to live authentically despite family judgment. I find another photo of them in the backyard, laughing under the orange trees, and I wonder if Tilly knew I'd need this house as much as she did. In the evening, I sit on the porch again, the air warm despite December. My phone buzzes, Jane, confirming flight details. "Can't wait to see you, Mom. Emma misses her grandma." The mention of Emma stings, her sticky fingers and bedtime stories, a reminder of what I love, but also what's been filtered through Jane's convenience. I don't reply. Instead, I watch the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, colors I'd forgotten existed under Ohio's gray. Tomorrow, I'll prepare for their visit, not by opening my home, but by guarding it, by guarding the woman I'm becoming. The morning sun filters through the orange trees, casting dappled shadows across the porch where I sit with my coffee, the mug warm against my palms. The air smells of citrus and dew, a far cry from the damp cardboard of the Honda's backseat. I'm wearing the blue dress I bought yesterday, its fabric a quiet declaration of the woman I'm becoming. Competent, settled, no longer shrinking to fit others' expectations. My new Prius sits in the driveway, its clean lines a contrast to the battered Civic I left behind in Ohio. Yesterday I spent hours at the hardware store, where Lloyd Hardy, an elderly clerk with kind eyes, helped me choose new locks for the bungalow's front and back doors. "Changing locks is one of the most empowering things a woman can do," he'd said, handing me a screwdriver and detailed instructions. "Makes a house truly yours." Last night I installed them, working slowly with Tilly's toolbox, the solid click of tumblers falling into place, a sound of ownership, of boundaries set. The keys rest heavy in my pocket now, a reminder that this home is mine, not a guest room subject to Frank's notes or Jane's whims. Sharon Clayton waves from her garden next door, her pruning shears glinting as she deadheads roses. I wave back, thinking of her stories about Tilly. How her sister, my mother, visited 40 years ago with a suitcase full of opinions, urging Tilly to return to Ohio, to a normal life. Tilly learned something that week, Sharon had said, her voice soft with memory. Love doesn't try to change you back into who you were. Real love celebrates who you're becoming. The words linger as I prepare for Jane and Frank's arrival tomorrow. I know what they want. Not me, but the money Tilly left, the house they'll see as a windfall to fund their dreams. I can already hear Jane's bright tone, Frank's calculated concern, both masking their real purpose. To convince me this California life is a fantasy, that my place is in Ohio, useful to their growing family. I spend the morning tending to the house, dusting Tilly's bookcases, sweeping the porch, small acts that root me here. In the kitchen, I find another of Tilly's notes taped to the pantry. For anyone who waters the plants, there's tea in the tin by the stove. Thank you, tea. The gesture, so simple and generous, feels like a lesson in kindness, in building a life that invites others in without losing yourself. I think of Jane's last text. Emma misses her grandma, and the pang of missing my granddaughter mixes with the sting of how Jane scheduled those visits around her convenience, never asking where I slept after I left her house. The anger in my chest, that small hard seed hasn't softened, but it's joined by something new. Resolve. I won't let their visit unravel what I'm building here. Not the house, not the woman I see in Tilly's antique mirrors, her eyes brighter than they were in Ohio. In the afternoon, I drive to the community center, where the book club flyer promised a meeting next week. I linger at the bulletin board, reading notices about yoga classes and gardening workshops, glimpses of a community I could join. Back home, I call Robert Rice to confirm details of the inheritance, ensuring everything is in order before Jane and Frank arrive. His voice is steady, professional, but he pauses when I mention their visit. Be careful with family expectations, he says. Tilly dealt with that, too. Her nephew contested everything when Patricia died. I thank him, my mind drifting to Tilly and Patricia, their life together a testament to chosen family over blood ties. I hang up and walk to the backyard, where the orange trees sway gently. I pick one, its skin rough and warm, and peel it slowly, the sharp scent filling the air. It's the first fruit I've eaten from this place, and it tastes like possibility. As evening falls, I sit on the porch, the new locks gleaming in the fading light. My phone buzzes, Jane texting their flight details again, her tone cheerful but edged with insistence. Can't wait to see the house, Mom. We'll figure everything out together. Figure everything out. As if my new life is a problem to be solved, a delusion to be corrected. I don't reply, letting the silence hold my answer. Sharon's porch light flicks on, and I hear her humming as she waters her plants. Tomorrow, Jane and Frank will land, bringing their expectations, their carefully rehearsed concern. But I'm ready. Not the woman who accepted a car as her home because her daughter was too busy to care, but someone harder, someone who knows her worth. The locks are changed, the dress fits, and the orange trees are mine. I sip my tea, Tilly's tea, and wait for what comes next. The airport is a swarm of noise and motion, holiday travelers dragging suitcases and shouting into phones, but I spot Jane and Frank at baggage claim, their faces tired and pinched from the flight. I'm wearing the blue dress, the pearl earrings I found in Tilly's jewelry box glinting softly, and I feel steady, like a woman who belongs in her own skin. Jane hugs me briefly, her eyes scanning my face as if searching for cracks in my composure. You look different, she says, stepping back. I look rested, I reply, and Frank offers a perfunctory hug, already complaining about the delayed flight and California traffic he's heard horror stories about. I lead them to the Prius, its clean interior a quiet rebuke to the Honda's cardboard days. Nice car, Frank says, eyebrows raised. The inheritance must have been bigger than you told Jane. His casual tone betrays his real interest, not my well-being but the size of my windfall. Big enough, I say, echoing my vague answer from our call, and I start the engine, the hum drowning out his follow-up question. The drive to their hotel is a monologue of Jane's chatter, house hunting updates, Frank's promotion, their plans for a bigger family. It's a performance, rehearsed to remind me of what I'm missing in Ohio, as if Pasadena is a detour from my real life. "We found this amazing house," Jane says, her voice bright. 4 bedrooms, perfect for the kids. It's a stretch financially, even with Frank's raise. The hint lands heavily, a prelude to what's coming. I nod, eyes on the road, the San Gabriel Mountains a faint outline against the sky. At the hotel, I help with their luggage, agreeing to pick them up for dinner in 2 hours. As I drive away, I catch them in the rearview mirror, standing close, heads bent, strategizing. My hands tighten on the wheel, but the weight of the house keys in my pocket grounds me. I'm not the woman who begged for scraps of their attention 3 months ago. Dinner is at a Pasadena restaurant Frank chose, expensive enough to signal they're not struggling, just strategically seeking family help. Jane wears a new dress, Frank a tie that screams ambition, and they perform their roles flawlessly, the perfect couple with dreams just out of reach. "The house is an investment," Frank says, cutting his steak with precision. "Property values in that neighborhood are up 30%. With the new baby, we need space, but it's about building wealth for the family." Jane leans in, eyes bright. "It has this incredible kitchen, Mom, and a huge backyard for Emma. There's even a separate living space over the garage, perfect for extended family visits." The phrase is a carrot, dangled to soften what's coming. I sip my water, letting them build their case. "How much help are you looking for?" I ask, cutting through their choreography. They exchange a glance, quick but calculated. "Maybe 50,000. Jane says carefully. 60 at most for the down payment. We'd pay you back once Frank's next promotion comes through. 60,000. More than I'd ever had before Tilly's gift, a sum they've clearly calculated I can afford. "That's significant," I say, my voice steady despite the anger flickering in my chest. "But you have it," Frank says, his tone implying the decision is obvious. "It's what family does." Family, the word they've weaponized since I told them about the inheritance. I change the subject. "Tell me about Emma. How's she adjusting to the new baby idea?" Jane softens, her face glowing. She's so excited, patting my belly, talking to the baby. For a moment, I see my daughter as she was when Emma was born, radiant with love. But then she pivots. "Come home, Mom. Emma needs her grandmother." "You're running away from the people who love you most." "Am I?" I ask quietly. "Because when I was sleeping in my car, neither of you seemed to think Emma needed me." Frank's jaw tightens. "That's not fair, Louise. We gave you our guest room for 6 weeks. "Until I became inconvenient," I say, and he falters, searching for words. Jane jumps in, bright and dismissive. "And now you're not homeless. Problem solved. Let's move forward. You have this inheritance, we have this house opportunity. It's perfect." I excuse myself to the restroom, needing space from their relentless pitch. In the mirror, I see a woman who's no longer hollow-cheeked, but not yet certain of her strength. I think of Tilly and Patricia, their love a quiet defiance of others' expectations. I think of Sharon, offering kindness without strings. When I return, Frank's showing Jane something on his phone. Mortgage calculators, probably, mapping out how my money fits their plans. "I'd like to see the house tomorrow," Jane says. "Maybe we could stay the night," Frank adds. "Save on the hotel, get a feel for the neighborhood." The assumption that my home is theirs to occupy lands like a slap. "That won't be possible," I say. "Why not?" Jane's brow furrows. "The house is perfectly habitable. I just prefer to keep my own space." The silence is sharp, their confusion palpable. I'm no longer the woman who accepted their scraps. I pay the check, a small act of power, and drive them back to their hotel. Jane's sniffles and Frank's muttered complaints filling the quiet. Tomorrow, on the porch, I'll face them one last time, and I'm ready. The morning sky over Pasadena is soft pink, the San Gabriel Mountains glowing as I sip coffee in Tilly's kitchen, the scent of lavender and citrus drifting through the open window. I'm dressed in the navy dress again, Tilly's pearl earrings catching the light, a quiet armor for what's coming. Jane and Frank will arrive soon, expecting the mother they've always known, grateful, accommodating, ready to bend to their needs. But I'm not that woman anymore. The new locks on the doors, the keys heavy in my pocket, the Prius in the driveway. They're proof of a life I've claimed, one they can't reshape to fit their ambitions. Sharon's kitchen light is on next door, her silhouette moving as she prepares for the day. I considered telling her about the visit, craving her steady presence. But this is mine to face alone. At 9:47, a rental car pulls into the driveway, and Jane and Frank step out, looking weary, perhaps from late-night wine and strategizing. Frank carries a briefcase, as if paperwork will sway me, and Jane's eyes dart to the house, searching for an opening. I open the door before they knock, stepping onto the porch instead of inviting them in. "Good morning," I say, settling into one of Tilly's wicker chairs. "How was your hotel?" "Fine," Jane says, her gaze flickering past me, as if she might push inside. "Can we come in? We don't have much time before our flight." "The porch is perfect for our conversation," I reply, gesturing to the chairs. Frank's jaw tightens, irritation flashing. "Louise, it's 40 degrees out here." "It's 58 and sunny," I say, smoothing my dress. "Quite pleasant for December." They sit, reluctant, their discomfort a small victory. Jane starts, her voice rehearsed. "Mom, we talked last night, and we want to apologize if we came on too strong about the house thing. We know you're adjusting to your new situation." "My new situation?" I echo, the phrase grating. "I'm adjusting quite well, actually." Frank opens his briefcase with a flourish, pulling out a folder thick with real estate listings and mortgage projections. "That's great," he says, "but we want to ensure you're thinking long-term. At your age, maximizing assets is key." "At my age," I repeat, my voice steady despite the fury sparking inside. "I'm 62, not 90, but to Frank I'm too old to make my own choices. What kind of planning did you have in mind?" He launches into his pitch. "This house is too big for one person. Maintenance costs, California taxes. You could sell it, buy something smaller in Ohio, and have hundreds of thousands left to help your family build wealth." "Help my family build wealth," I say slowly, letting the words hang. Jane leans forward, eager. "It's about generational wealth, Mom. What's the point of all this money if your family struggles with mortgages and daycare?" "Are you struggling, Jane?" I ask, and she blinks, caught off guard. "Not struggling exactly, but with the baby coming, we need to position ourselves for success." "And you think I should subsidize that?" Frank jumps in, smooth as ever. "Invest in your grandchildren's future, not rattling around in some dead woman's house playing make-believe at 62. The silence is sharp, the morning birds falling quiet. Jane's face pales, realizing Frank's crossed a line. "Frank," she murmurs, but I cut in, my voice calm but unyielding. "No, let him finish. I'm curious about this make-believe life." Frank, mistaking my tone for weakness, leans back. "Look, Louise, you've had a rough few months. The flood, the temporary housing, traumatic. But you can't run to California and pretend to be someone you're not. You're a grandmother from Ohio, not some lifestyle woman." "And what's my reality, Frank?" I ask. "That you belong near your family, supporting the next generation, not playing house with someone else's life." I look at Jane, who stares at her hands, silent. She doesn't disagree, just regrets his bluntness. 3 months ago, I say, I'd have agreed. I'd have sold this house, moved back, given you the money. I'd have been grateful you still wanted me." "Mom," Jane starts, but I raise a hand. "But I learned something. Some people invite you into their lives, and some just tolerate you until it's inconvenient." I stand, the keys solid in my pocket. "Jane, I love you. I love Emma. I'll love the new baby, but I won't subsidize your life while you treat mine as disposable." Jane's eyes fill with tears. "We're not. You let me sleep in my car for 3 months while you shopped for houses," I say, the words cutting through her protest. Frank snorts. "Here we go with the car thing. We didn't throw you out. No, you made it clear I wasn't welcome." Jane tries again. "We thought space would help you get perspective." "And I have perspective," I say, looking out at Sharon's garden, where she waves oblivious to the storm here. "I see you view my inheritance as your solution, not my reward for surviving." "So what now?" Jane asks, her voice small. "You catch your flight, buy the house you can afford, raise your kids without my money. As for us, that depends on whether you can love me without expecting me to be grateful for it." Frank stands, red-faced. "Don't come crying when this fantasy falls apart. I've been alone before," I say. "It's not as frightening as you think." They leave, Jane glancing back once, Frank staring ahead. I sit on the porch, deleting their texts and calls, then dial Robert Rice. "I want to change my will," I say. "A scholarship fund for women over 50 starting over, and the house to someone who'll cherish what Tilly built." "A beneficiary?" he asks. I look at Sharon's roses. Yes, I think I do. That evening I call Anna Whitmire about the book club, her voice warm as she welcomes me. We're reading Late Bloomers, stories of women finding power later in life. You'll fit right in. As the sun sets, I sit with Tilly's book, The Silence, a Gentle Freedom. No frantic messages from Jane, no guilt trips from Frank. Tomorrow, I'll plan the scholarship, tend the orange trees, host the book club where my quilt glows in the light. I'll build a life with people who see me as a gift, not a burden. If Jane learns to love without conditions, she'll be welcome. If not, I'm enough. The woman who slept in a car is gone, replaced by someone who knows dignity is worth more than approval. The locks are changed, the will is set, and I am home. The air grows cooler as night settles over Craftsman Avenue. The stars faint above the oak trees. I wrap a shawl around my shoulders, Tilly's shawl, its wool soft with age. The porch creaks under my feet, a sound I'm learning to love, like a heartbeat of this house. I think of Emma's laugh, Jane's childhood hugs, and the ache of their absence softens in this quiet. I'm not running anymore, not from loss, not from love, not from myself. The mountains fade into dusk, and I breathe deeply, the scent of orange blossoms lingering. This is my place, my time, my beginning. I close the book, its pages whispering of women like me, and step inside, locking the door behind me, ready for tomorrow's light. The Pasadena night wraps around me like a gentle embrace, the porch quiet except for the rustle of orange trees in the breeze. I sit in Tilly's wicker chair, a cup of tea cooling in my hands, the stars above Craftsman Avenue faint but steady. 3 months ago, I was a shadow in a parking lot, my life reduced to a Honda's backseat, my daughter's indifference a heavier weight than the flood that took my home. Now, I'm here, in a house that smells of lavender and history, surrounded by neighbors who wave without expecting anything in return. Sharon's roses bloom next door, a reminder of kindness freely given, and the book club's promise of friendship waits like an open door. I've changed my will, setting aside Tilly's gift for women like me, those starting over when the world expects them to fade. The house will go to Sharon, who'll cherish its heart as Tilly did. Jane and Frank are gone, their rental car a distant memory, their demands unanswered. I love my daughter, my granddaughter, the baby to come. But love must be a gift, not a transaction. I've learned this under California's warm sky, where the gray of Ohio's winter can't reach. My mother's quilt glows in the living room. Catching the afternoon light, I'll see tomorrow when I tend the garden or meet Anna for coffee. The phone stays silent, and I let it, savoring the peace of a life I've chosen. I'm no longer the woman who accepted scraps of affection, who measured her worth by others' convenience. I'm Louise, 62, home at last, my heart whispering one truth. Dignity, once reclaimed, is a light that never dims.